how does the
Exactly.
patient actually interface with those records later on? Doctors moved, they're on an Antarctic expedition, or they're deceased, or they're,
Yeah.
how does the patient even get a hold of these records in whatever situation arises?
Yeah, so when a closure takes place, part of our checklist involves, giving the colleges appropriate notices so that, when even if a physician retires and a patient hasn't been there in 2 years, the custodian should be clearly listed on the physician's profile, either on the college website or um, a physician profile. So what we do is we provide templates to fill out so that we can upload them, send them to the college, and they can upload or update the physician's profile with our information, which says, what date the files were received. So that the patients know they have our contact information, how to reach out to us. When a doctor retires, part of the notification process, or retires or closes for whatever reason, we send out mail notices, we call the patients, and if we have email address, we also email the patients. So, and our objective is to notify all active patients, or at least if we have enough information, any patient that's been to see that doctor within the last 5 years. So even if they're classified as inactive or derostered, if they've been to the clinic within the last 5 years, we try to include them. They're included in the notification system if the physician still has all the appropriate information for that patient. So, that's, 3 to 5 minimum points of contact. And we usually, at least a year or a year and a half after the closure, we send out another notification as well. So, we do our best to make sure that the patient is well informed. And then, like I said, the more notice you have with the physician and their closure, the better the communication is with the patients, because we do our own communication, and then we encourage communication to come directly from the physician so that no active patient should be missed. And then it's obviously the inactive patients who you try to get a hold of, but if they haven't been to the physician in 5 years, sometimes their contact information might be out of date. So that's why posting all of our contact information on the college website for that physician is our last resort for trying to make sure we're accessible.
That makes sense. And
Mhm.
then does it cost anything for the patients to get their records down the line? Like if a patient comes to the clinic and they want copies of all their stuff, there's sort of standards and guidelines for fees to charge. Does the patient need to pay you guys as well, or how do you actually deal with that transaction?
Yeah, and that's probably the biggest issue we deal with patients, and even me before I came on board with Rasky. I the concept of owning your medical record is a lot of people don't understand that, where the physician owns that medical record. So as a patient, when your physician's practicing, you have a right to request access to view your medical record, but the physician cannot give you the physical copy of the medical record. So whether the file is with a custodian like ourselves, or if the file is still with the physician, in the physician still practicing, like you said, there are fees that are set out for the time and effort required to reproduce the document. So we try to adhere as closely as possible to the posted fee schedule that's online. And like I said, we've capped our fees and we offer as much of a discount as we can. And that's one of the things that we always express with physicians is we've capped our fees. So we're one of the most cost effective solutions for patients, because, it's unfortunate for the patients, because they're in a bit of a lose-lose situation, right? They're losing their family physician after X amount of time. And they're also, for most of them, they're learning for the first time that they don't own their medical record. So like I said, when we speak to the physicians, we promise that we will cap and not raise our prices. We offer discounts, and we also, if someone doesn't have the ability to pay for a record, we don't withhold the record. We still provide a copy of the record, either at a discount or for free if the case is required. So, we understand that the patient is in the difficult position regardless. So we do everything we can to keep our costs as low as possible back to the patient.
Yeah, it makes sense. Okay. So, in terms of when people need to get a hold of record services, so practice closure, you're moving, physicians no longer practicing or deceased, any other times where this needs to be something to be talked about?
So, for some individuals, digitization of records is also just another component that or service that we provide. So, a lot of physicians, will, if they take over a practice, which is becoming less common, if they have physical records that are taking up space, then, even if they're not closing for 5-10 years, they might want to just reduce the footprint at their office. So even digitizing records that are currently on hand is something that we do with them. And that's also a way for us to begin engaging with them well ahead of their closures, so that they can anticipate and keep it on their horizon for when it comes time. So that's one way. There are EMR transition services that we provide. So even if you're not closing, if you're transitioning from one EMR to another, if you're in a family health team and you need to extract records, like I said, so it's also common where now if you are on a shared EMR, you might set up your own profile and create a separate account. So there's a transition and migration process that we can support with. So there's a lot of different things that we try to help with. And like I said, right now, obviously, because of the transition from physical to EMR, we are seeing a lot of requests for digitization, so that physicians can reduce walls of charts that they have stored right now and convert them so that they can go into an EMR. Because we've seen some instances where physicians are just choosing to retire instead of transitioning to an EMR because they think the workload is so significant for that transition. So again, we even try to provide, there's a charts on demand service that we even provide. So if a physician's transitioning to an EMR, instead of looking at it as, I have 1,000 charts that all need to be digitized, we work with them so that we're kind of digitizing on demand, so that we can reduce the cost for the physician and digitize charts and provide them back to the physician as patients are coming in to see him or her. So it allows us to, again, reduce the upfront cost for a physician who's going through that transition, but still provide the digital copies at a high quality, and then also secure destruction and shredding, so that as we're doing it, we're removing the files for them.
Clean up all that space in the office, I guess.
Exactly. Yeah.
What about for any of the dentists or dietitians listening right now? Does the same thing apply? Is that all patient health information as the privacy officer would define it?
Yeah. So my comment is always we always check with the applicable college for their recommended guidelines, but they usually fall under the specialist category, where there's a good chance that no one will be seeking that file, but they have to adhere to their practice's storage and retention requirements. So, when we get a specialist, we meet with them specifically. We pull up their guidelines that is custom to them, and then we adhere. But, again, as a blanket statement, we always say you have to anticipate 10 years minimum, and then we assess the requirements forever. So, if you're a pediatric doctor or specialist, we tell you from the get-go, let's just assume it's 28 years minimum. But you still, like I said, typically we still only bill for 10 years, but we will store your charts for at least 28 years. And then as we index it and go through the files, we understand, the patient breaks of how old they are, when the chart can be classified for destruction.
I'm Dr. Jordan Valrath, and you've been watching Cherry Live, brought to you by Cherry Health. Please like and subscribe to see more clips like this, or check us out at www.cherry.health, Canada's medical network.